Ukraine gets Dutch missiles and radars. You heard that right. It is Tuesday, February 3, 2026, and the entire landscape of the war in Europe has just shifted. If you thought you knew where this was going, well, think again. We are looking at a massive escalation in capability that is going to save lives and I think really change the trajectory of this entire conflict. Before we get into it, if you believe in freedom, if you believe in justice for innocent people, do this one thing for us right now. Subscribe to Defense Reports. It's your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports. I'm Alex Leas. Join me and my co-host in the latest deep dive by Defense Report for a sharp, no-nonsense breakdown of the latest in global defense news, military technology, and strategic developments. And today we are covering a massive development coming out of The Hague. And this is not just another donation. This is a total rewrite of the war's architecture. The Netherlands is arming Ukraine with advanced drone hunting radars and, this is the big one, localizing production of the Ruta cruise missile inside Ukraine.
It's a pivotal moment. I mean, there's no other way to put it. What we're seeing today is really the end of what you could call the donation economy. That whole phase where Ukraine was reliant on, frankly, begging for surplus gear from the 90s. We have now entered the production economy. Ukraine isn't just fighting to survive anymore. They are building a futuristic war machine that, quite honestly, rivals anything we're seeing in NATO.
And this isn't standard off-the-shelf stuff. We're going to unpack the Ruta missile, a weapon that uses AI to literally memorize the ground it flies over because it just doesn't trust GPS.
And we're going to get into the invisible radar, a system that can see without being seen, and get this, a software update that doubled its detection range overnight without a single new piece of hardware.
Exactly. So what's the bottom line here? It means the game has changed. This is about self-reliance, it's about justice, and it's about the ability to strike back.
Let's jump right into the hardware, because the headline is it's huge. The Netherlands and Ukraine are localizing production of the Ruta cruise missile. Now, when I first saw the images of this thing, the Ruta Block 2, I have to say, it looked a little odd. It's got this box-shaped fuselage, not very sleek.
It definitely stands out, doesn't it? But that box shape is pure function. It's designed by a company called Destinus, and that shape does two key things. First, yes, it helps reduce the radar cross-section a little, some stealth. But the main reason is logistics. It allows for a canister launch.
Canister launch.
You can fold the wings in and stack these missiles like logs. You put them in standard shipping containers on the back of a truck, or you could even drop them from a cargo plane.
So wait, you're telling me you can turn any standard semi-truck into a long-range missile launcher?
Precisely. That is terrifying if you're the enemy. It hides the launch platform in plain sight.
Just another truck on the highway. Exactly. It simplifies the whole logistics chain. You don't need some massive specialized vehicle that just screams, "Target me," to every drone in the sky. You just need a truck. But let's talk specs, because they are serious. We're looking at a range of over 450 kilometers. And the warhead is over 250 kilograms.
Okay, 450 kilometers. Let's just pause on that. That pushes the quote-unquote safe zone for Russian logistics, for their airfields, for command posts, deep, deep into the rear.
It means there is no safe zone. But the real game changer here, it isn't just the range. It's how it gets to the target. What has been the single biggest problem for Western precision weapons in 2026?
GPS jamming, absolutely. The electronic warfare environment is just a nightmare. We've all seen the reports of smart bombs going dumb because they lose that satellite signal.
Right. The Russians create these electronic bubbles where Western tech just goes blind. The Ruta Block 2 solves this with something called hive mind combat AI and, crucially, terrain relative navigation.
Terrain relative navigation. Okay, break that down for us. It sounds like something from an old Tomahawk missile, but on steroids.
It's a good analogy. Think of it like this. You're driving your car, your GPS dies. What do?
You look out the window.
You look out the window, you see a specific bridge, a bend in the river, that weird-shaped hill, and you compare it to the map you have in your head. The missile does exactly that. It uses onboard cameras to scan the ground below and compares it, in real time, to a 3D map stored in its memory.
So it navigates by sight.
It navigates by sight. It could not care less if GPS satellites are jammed or, completely shot out of the sky.
That's the light bulb moment. It's unjammable because it's not listening for a signal from space. It's looking at the world.
You can't jam a camera unless you plan on covering the entire country in smoke.
And the strategic implication of this is just massive.
It's huge. Because this missile is being produced with Ukraine, there are no strings attached. This isn't like some other long-range missiles where Kyiv might have to, ask for permission to strike a legitimate military target inside Russia.
If they build it, they get to decide where to aim it.
That is operational sovereignty. It changes everything.
It really does. But, you can't just have a big stick. You need a shield, too. Especially with these drone swarms we see targeting civilians. And that brings us to the eyes of defense. The Dutch Ministry of Defense and Robin Radar Systems just signed a deal for 100 of these advanced drone detection radars.
And this fills a really critical gap. Your traditional air defense radars, the big spinning ones, they're designed to see fighter jets, big, metal, fast-moving things.
Right.
They often miss these small, plastic, slow-moving drones like a Shahed or an Orlan.
Yeah.
Because to the radar's computer, they look just like, well, birds.
And that's the classic problem, right? You filter out the birds to clean up your screen. You might filter out the threat. You leave the birds in, your screen is an absolute mess.
It's a nightmare for the operator. But these Robin radars, the Iris and Max systems, they use microdoppler technology. They can actually distinguish the signature of a drone's spinning propeller from the signature of a bird's flapping wing.
That's amazing.
But here's the really fascinating part. These radars were already being tested in Ukraine. This wasn't a blind purchase. There was a feedback loop.
This is the part of the story I just loved. The engineers took real-world data from the Ukrainian front lines, the actual flight paths, the radar signatures of Russian drones, and they fed it back into their algorithms.
They did? And then they pushed a software update.
Just code. No new hardware.
Not a single new antenna or processor. And the detection range jumped from 5 kilometers to 12 kilometers.
Doubled. More than doubled. Just by understanding the enemy better.
And think about what that means. That extra 7 kilometers, that buys you minutes, not seconds.
And in air defense, minutes are an eternity.
That's the difference between intercepting a drone over an empty field and having hit a power plant or an apartment building. That software update will save lives.
And they're localizing this production too, I read. It's not just a handout.
Yes. In those talks between the ministers, they agreed to set up repair and, eventually, production facilities inside Ukraine. So when a radar gets damaged, you fix it in Kyiv in a few days. You don't ship it back to the Netherlands for weeks. It keeps the shield up.
It's incredible how fast that whole feedback loop is closing. But okay, we have to talk about the Ghost. We teased it in the intro. The VERANG system. The Netherlands bought 4 of these for 150 million euros. This is not like the Robin radars.
No, this is a completely different animal. The VRANG is what's called a passive surveillance ESM tracker.
Okay, let's translate that from engineer speak. What does that actually mean?
Okay, think of a pitch black room. Most radars are like someone walking around with a powerful flashlight. They can see things when the light reflects back.
But everyone else can see the flashlight beam. They know exactly where you are.
Exactly. They shout energy to hear an echo. The VRANG doesn't have a flashlight. It just sits in the dark and listens. It detects the enemy's own electronic emissions, their plane's radar, their radio chatter, their altimeters.
So to an enemy aircraft, or worse, to an anti-radiation missile that's designed to hunt and kill radars, the VRNG just isn't there. It's invisible.
It's a ghost. It can see up to 400 kilometers away, but it emits zero energy. It is, for all intents and purposes, undetectable.
But wait a minute. The 2026 battlefield is just... It's a mess of signals. You have drones, radios, jammers, everything screaming at once. How does a passive system like that pick out the one important enemy signal from all of that chaos? I was reading some of the research on this on blind source separation.
Yes, this is where the really heavy science comes in. Yeah. There was a fantastic paper from the Fraunhofer Institute that uses the perfect analogy. They call it the cocktail party problem.
That cocktail party problem.
Imagine you're at a really loud party, music's blaring, 10 different conversations are happening, and yet somehow your brain can tune all of that out and focus on the one person you're talking to. You can separate their voice from all the noise.
Right.
The VERANG uses deep learning, specifically something called a dual-path time-frequency transformer, to do exactly that, but with radio waves.
Okay, dual-path time frequency. That's a mouthful. Break it down.
Basically, the AI is so advanced, it can listen to a jumble of overlapping signals and identify the unique voice or fingerprint of each one. It can find a faint drone control signal that's deliberately buried underneath a powerful Russian jamming signal, and it could just digitally mask the jamming and pull out the signal it needs to hear.
That is unbelievable. It's using AI to untangle this invisible web of electronic warfare in real time.
It's the brain that makes the whole system work. Without it, a passive radar would just hear static. With it, it hears everything.
It's a terrifying thought for an aggressor, but it's a beacon of hope for defense. You can see them coming, but they can't see you. Now, we've talked about all this incredible tech, but none of it happens without the engine that drives any war effort, money and politics.
Unfortunately true.
Mm.
And the political context here is key. We all know the U.S. political situation has been, let's say, complicated. Those delays from the previous administration really disrupted the flow of aid.
Right, the gridlock in Washington. But it seems like Europe has found a very clever workaround. It's called PURL.
The Prioritized Ukraine Requirements List. It's a brilliant move. Essentially, European nations, and the Netherlands is really leading this, they're pooling their money. They take this European cash and go directly to U.S. defense contractors to buy equipment for Ukraine.
So it's European money for American-made hardware, but it completely bypasses the political gridlock in D.C.
Exactly. It keeps the assembly lines running and the weapons flowing no matter who is arguing in Congress. It's a financial end run around political obstacles.
And speaking of American hardware, we have to give an update on the F-16s. The Netherlands has officially completed its pledge, 24 jets delivered.
They are. But the conversation has now shifted from when will they get there to how do we keep them flying? And the Netherlands just signed a huge $235 million contract with an engineering firm to handle maintenance all the way through 2029.
Because a jet on the ground is just a very expensive target.
Correct. But there's another detail here that's even more important than the maintenance contract. It's about the data. The Dutch and Ukrainian teams have set up a data exchange agreement.
What does that mean, practically speaking?
It means the F-16 doesn't fight alone. It's being fully integrated into Ukraine's air defense network through Link 16. The F-16's radar can spot a threat and instantly share that targeting data with a Patriot battery on the ground or a naval drone or another jet. It becomes a sensor in a huge interconnected web. That's what really scares Russian commanders.
Total battlefield awareness. And this all seems to be building towards the future. We mentioned the production economy. There's this term being used now, the drone wall.
Yes, the drone wall. The Netherlands has put aside 800 million euros in 2025 alone for this initiative. And we are not talking about small workshops here. We are talking about fully automated factories, joint ventures with the German and Dutch companies, where robots are literally building other robots.
The scale of that is just, it's hard to comprehend. It's like the industrialization of drone warfare.
It is, and the financial commitment is there to back it up. The Netherlands has pledged 3 billion euros per year through 2029. That's not a short-term fix. That's a long-term strategic partnership.
And it's not just military aid. I saw in the reports they allocated 252 million euros for non-military aid. Things like repairing the energy grid, demining. But something else stood out to me. The International Claims Commission.
I'm glad you brought that up. This is the justice part of the equation. It's easy to get lost in the tech, but this is about people. The Netherlands is hosting this commission in The Hague. They're funding forensic teams to go into Ukraine, collect evidence, identify victims of war crimes, and document everything.
That's incredibly powerful. It's saying, we will help you fight this war, but we will also help you find justice when it's over.
It connects the high-tech weaponry to the moral core of this conflict. It's about protecting the innocent and making sure there is accountability. And when you zoom out, you see this build with Ukraine model in full effect.
It really feels like the whole dynamic has flipped.
It has. Ukraine is no longer just a testing ground for Western gear. They're becoming a top-tier manufacturer. They're taking Western investment, combining it with their own brutal, hard-won combat experience, and creating systems that are frankly better than what they were given. The flow of knowledge has actually reversed. In many areas, Ukraine is now teaching NATO how to fight a modern war.
That is just a staggering thought. We went from sending helmets to co-producing AI-guided cruise missiles that navigate by looking out a window.
It's the evolution of survival into strength.
Okay, let's recap the big wins here. You have the Ruta Block 2 missile, 450-kilometer range, AI-guided and jam-proof. You have the Robin radar's doubled range with software now being produced in Kyiv. You have the VRNG, the Ghost radar, using deep learning to see what's invisible. And you have the Dutch stepping up with the funding, the F-16 support, and the commitment to justice.
And all of it is built on that core idea of local production, of sovereignty.
Which leaves me with one final provocative thought for you to consider. If Ukraine is now producing its own long-range weapons with Western funding, but without Western restrictions, if they are building the missiles themselves, has the whole red line game finally ended? If the weapon is Ukrainian-made, Who is there for Moscow to complain to? It seems like the architecture of this war has just evolved beyond the old political constraints.
I think you're right. The red lines are fading because the ink is now being manufactured in Kyiv.
A fascinating and critical time to be watching this. You've been listening to Defense Report, where we analyze the latest in military strategy, global defense, and advanced weaponry. Subscribe to Defense Reports, your trusted source for timely, in-depth military and defense analysis. We'll see you next time. Keep supporting us so we can continue bringing you the latest developments from Ukraine and around the world.